thank you again for being here today at the 4th National Human Animal Bond Awareness Day here at Red Wings. I am thrilled and delighted to introduce Caroline, Head of Campaigns at Battersea Dogs and Cats Home. So they are leading the charity's public campaign work to tackle issues affecting the health and welfare of dogs and cats in the UK, including, and you may have seen this, the Cost of Cute campaign. Prior to Battersea, Caroline held positions in the charity sector already. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you did before Battersea?
Sure. Well, I mean, I actually worked in brand and marketing agencies for almost 20 years, that aged me, but then moved into the charity world, working for a countryside charity, and then I went to work for the Royal British Legion, and then I found my way to Battersea, which is far more my spiritual home.
Did you ever think you would end up in the animal welfare rehoming sector?
Not really, not by design. I mean, I'd always, even when I worked for agencies, I'd often had charity clients, and that was by far the most interesting work.
Okay.
And I'd always been a very sort of a charity supporter and very interested in that. But no, it probably hadn't been a career aspiration until I got the call from Battersea.
But you've always been involved with animals. You rode
Always.
as a child.
I did,
into
yes.
your teens and beyond.
Yeah, exactly. And in fact, funny what Louis was saying, because the horse that I used to exercise was part mule, and you could tell.
Could you?
So yeah, you could. So
tell us a little bit about mule horse.
Loved him. His name was Whiskey, and he was kind of part of a riding stables, and then the riding stables disbanded, and a friend of mine took him on. And he just had the greatest personality. Like that bond, I mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
And he would decide which way we wanted to go. He lived, he had sheep companions who he used to like to chase, and they used to like to chase him. But because apparently sheep get bored, you have to kind of move sheep on quite often. So he had quite a regular set of sheep companions moving around. But yeah, I mean, he was...
Was he your animal of a lifetime?
Absolutely.
Without your cats hearing this right now, but
yeah, I mean, he was my horse of a lifetime.
Horse summer. And tell us about your cats now. Who have you got?
So we've got Floyd, who was a lockdown kitten. Actually, he was found on the street at the beginning of the pandemic. I got a call from one of my team saying, anyone can give this one a home, and he was just the most beautiful little kitten ever. So we took him on. And then more recently, this stray decided that he wanted to live in our house and was like a regular visitor, sitting in right with his face against the cat flap, filling it with his big tom cheeks. So we've called him Dave, and he now is officially ours. And then, in fact, we've just had a video from our cat sitter with George, who's the other stray, who is on his way into our household, waiting on the front step for his breakfast.
Fantastic.
So. Yeah.
So you're living the charity as such.
Living the charity, yeah. They're
Amazing.
all sorts, all shapes and sizes, all very cute.
So can you tell us a little bit about what Battersea does and how you have got to this really important campaign that you've initiated called the Cost of Cute?
Sure. So, I mean, Battersea's been around since 1860. It was founded by a lady called Mary Tilby, who's an absolute trailblazer. I mean, women weren't big in the charity world. I mean, they didn't really have jobs kind of back in 1860. And she really wanted to sort out the stray animals of London. And so she founded an organisation which has gone on to become Battersea. And over that time, I mean, it's the vision and the kind of the mission of the organisation has stayed absolutely true. I mean, they're here for every dog and cat. We try never to turn an animal away. And the way that we support those animals has changed, obviously, dramatically over time. So we're really well known as being a rescue, rehabilitation and rehoming organisation. Now we do a lot of work in campaigning, so trying to change the world so that it's better for dogs, cats and their owners. But then also supporting the wider sector, whether that's through like knowledge, training, resources, or funding in some cases.
So you try and keep dogs and cats in their homes in this time where there's a cost of living crisis?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, really, people think that we want to take their animals. Obviously, we are there to support people. We want to keep animals in places where they can be loved and cared for and where their needs can be met. So actually, we do quite a lot of work across the world. So like in Thailand, Sri Lanka, where there are owned communities of animals. So obviously, it's about supporting people to keep their animals healthy in the way in which they need to be kept. So whether that's through kind of trap, neuter, vaccinate and release programs, but also working through like our behavioural advice services to support people who might be struggling with the behaviour of their animals or through other financial reasons.
So since the beginning and the initiation of Battersea, good Lord, there's been such a change in life.
Change. Yeah.
And what we're seeing now, do you think it's aesthetically driven, people wanting animals that they think look cute? What is there a definition of cute that is dangerous to these animals?
Absolutely. I mean, so what we've seen is that there's been a real trend towards, I mean, people have always chosen a lot of animals based on what they look like. Obviously, we all have. But what we've seen is that over time, there's been a real shift in demand towards dogs and cats. And it's traditionally been dogs, but increasingly with cats, where they have really extreme characteristics. And the extremity of those characteristics has become even more amplified over time. So whether that's flat faces in dogs, whether it is Scottish fold cats, where they have, thank you for modelling them so beautifully. So Scottish fold cats, where the ear is actually folded over. People think that that's really cute. They have like round faces, big eyes, and you know, objectively, they are beautiful. Unfortunately, what that means is that they have a musculoskeletal issue called osteochondrodysplasia, which means that the cartilage throughout their body is affected. So what folds the ears also compromises their kind of structural integrity, essentially.
Right.
With flat faces, you know, that comes with a range of different problems, whether it's
brachycephalic, so not just pugs, but other...
Yeah, whether it's bulldogs. I mean, we're seeing it in cats as well, so with Persians. Yeah, I mean, it affects lots of different animals. But because of the compromise of the skull shape, it quite often means that their airways are really narrow, so they struggle to breathe. They find it really hard to regulate their own temperature. They can't be exercised for very long because obviously they're struggling to breathe. They can't necessarily eat because they have like acid reflux and that kind of thing. Can't necessarily sleep because they can't breathe properly. So sometimes they have to be kind of propped up. But then because like the eye socket is shallower, their eyes bulge and that can cause ulceration. They have jaws that their teeth can't accommodate the number of teeth they naturally have.
You're just listing all these things. When you look at it, you think it's just breathing.
And you think it's cute.
No.
But a lot of people do because they conform to, it's called baby schema. So like if you look at some of these flat-faced animals, they have the same kind of proportions as babies.
Right.
So people are kind of, you know, wired to find that cute and want to care for it. Unfortunately, over time, it's become more and more exaggerated. And you can see from that, I mean, the theory behind the campaign is see what you don't see. So the actual lettering and what it says is forming the shape of where the nose should be. And actually, if you look at an old style pug to a new style pug, that's the difference.
Right.
That's the snout it would have.
Right.
So obviously take that away and everything is compromised.
Have you had many requests for help in the really hot weather? Advice being given for these types of dogs? Have they really struggled?
I mean, they do really struggle. They really do struggle. I mean, we actually, through the research for the campaign, we did some testing to see how it would land with owners. And there was a lady who had 2 pugs who she absolutely loves. And she said that people would come up to her in the park and say, oh, like, so cute, love your dogs. Like that cute little piggy grunting, like, isn't that cute? And she's like, no, they're really struggling to breathe. She said they're really lovely, playful dogs, huge personalities. But especially when it gets hotter, they can play for 5 minutes.
Right.
As soon as the temperature rises a couple of degrees, that's it. You know, they can't do anything and they want to. So that frustration of not being able to live a dog's life, you know, it's just not fair, really.
And have you seen particular breeds come through to you that have got these compromises? What sort of? So obviously pug, you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, yes. So French bulldogs have been the most popular dog in the UK for about the last 10 years.
Right.
We see loads of them at Battersea, unfortunately. I very rarely go on to site at Battersea without running across, like seeing at least a couple.
Right.
But we've also seen like Sharpays with the excess skin folds. Sometimes they come in and they need surgery, and we discover that they've actually had surgery in the past. And because a lot of these conditions are progressive, you know, it has to be done again.
Yeah.
We haven't seen many Scottish folds so far. We have seen some, but cats are kind of behind the curve for dogs. So this has been happening for dogs for a long time. And now it's starting, we're seeing the same trends coming through in the cat world.
Doesn't
so
help
yes,
when celebrities have these, and
it doesn't.
And films as well, wasn't it? It was in one of the films.
Films, yeah. It was called Argyle, and it was also, I mean, a cat being carried in a backpack, which we wouldn't recommend, say the least. And try and put our cat in a backpack. Good luck to you. But yeah, I mean, and also, I mean, there were a couple of ads recently. There was one for Magnum, which featured a really, they're called exotic Persians, and it was so flat-faced. Whether it's AI or not doesn't matter.
It's hard to tell, isn't it?
But it just normalizes it, and it makes it desirable. There was another one, a Lynx ad that featured a similar cat. So they are everywhere. And what we were seeing was that that actually, you know, this trend and desirability for extreme characteristics, because actually, I mean, Frenchies having been the most popular dog or most advertised dog, they're not anymore. They've been replaced by miniature Dachshunds.
Right.
So obviously another
Who have
animal,
a completely different set
completely
of
different,
problems.
but an extreme characteristic that has become more extreme over time, and that is really, really prone to spineless shoes. So it's kind of swapping one thing for another.
Tell us about the tail as well.
Yeah, I mean, some people don't necessarily know about screw tails, but a lot of English bulldogs, but a lot of other breeds have them as well. And some people think, well, it's just a cute, stumpy little tail. Actually, what it is it's where the spine is malformed and the vertebrae fuse together, and they can kind of twist into this corkscrew shape. And of course, if the bone is twisted, then the skin is twisted. So it creates really deep, tight skin folds that can, you know, become infected really quickly. And the same with flat faces. You know, you have all these folds and they need cleaning a lot. So that, because imagine having like your face infected all the time. You know, they get yeast infections. It's not very nice. But also in the back, it creates an awful lot of pressure around the back end. It also means that actually dogs struggle to communicate with each other, because of course when dogs meet, where their tail is kind of signals to other dogs of, you know, are they happy to meet or not. They can't cover their bottom, for example. So that can cause kind of conflict because they can't express and communicate with other dogs, or indeed with people.
And are there many people out there willing to take these animals on that you have brought into you? Are they willing to take these on no matter that you might get some abuse from people saying you've got that, you shouldn't have it? Well, as a rescue.
Yeah, I mean, so what we don't want is any abuse of anyone.
Yeah.
Our campaign is not judgmental in any way. What we know is that people absolutely love their animals. They absolutely love them. But the awareness of the impacts of some of these characteristics is really low. The popularity of them continues. So no, we haven't seen any struggle in rehoming them.
Fantastic.
But of course, when we do rehome them, we equip people with the knowledge of, you know, the dog will have had whatever surgery it needs. So quite often BOAS surgery, so brachycephalic obstructive airways syndrome surgery. They might have had other treatment as well. Quite often they come with, you know, a host of problems. So someone would take on that animal knowing exactly what they are taking on. And also, as I mentioned, you know, some of these things are progressive, so they will know what they can potentially expect.
Do they get any different insurance coverage with knowing these breeds? Is there differences in insurance for people taking them on?
They can be really costly, really costly, because the actual vet costs of treating some of these conditions is huge. And people don't necessarily expect that. They're not prepared for it. And so what we see is that these animals do come into our care when people, can't necessarily meet the financial cost anymore, or they can't meet the emotional cost anymore, because seeing the struggling of your beloved pet is a lot. I mean, even taking an animal, a healthy pet, usually healthy pet, to the vet once or twice is really taxing. When it's happening all the time, you know, that's really hard for people. So what we want to do is just help people make more informed decisions. And actually, you know, we want to rehome these animals. Of course we do. We're not about, you know, sort of stopping the rehoming of existing animals. What we want to do is kind of make people aware so that hopefully the demand for these animals to be bred to suffer in the first place is reduced, because actually people have real power as consumers. The choices that people make in the animals that they choose to buy creates demand, and it, you know, people meet that
That's
demand.
a really powerful message that you're saying, because you think that especially during COVID, people were breeding for money.
People are always breeding for money.
Yeah, but if we can somehow reduce the demand for those breeds, that's at some point got to have a knock-on effect. But
exactly. And breeding is such a massive spectrum. Like, there are some people who breed really, really carefully. They choose the healthiest animals, they do all the necessary health testing, and they do it really carefully. And then there are people who are just in it to make money. And the spectrum is really vast. And people don't necessarily know the difference between where they're getting their animal from. And especially so many animals these days are bought through online platforms. And people can buy and get hold of an animal very, very quickly these days. It's kind of a bit like Amazon. And unfortunately, you know, people aren't necessarily doing the research. They don't necessarily know the questions to ask. And so then, you know, all breeders are not the same. But if people are really wanting these animals and they know what they're taking on, then we would absolutely encourage them to rehome, because those animals do need a home. They need a second chance, like that one. Yeah, we just want to stop them being bred to suffer in the first place.
What's the capacity of animals at Battersea?
So, I mean, we normally have, and I'll probably get this wrong, I think we normally have about 100 dogs and 100 cats in our care at any one time.
Right.
At the moment, we do have waiting lists for dogs to come in, well, and for cats to come in. The demand is such. And of course, you know, as I mentioned, we have a non-selective intake policy. So we are open to animals with, you know, any temperament, any age, medical condition, whatever. We will do our best, whatever is needed for that animal, for the best outcome for them. So where we can reduce preventable relinquishment and keep animals in their homes, because quite often, you know, their owners want to keep them, but there's a reason why they're suffering or struggling. And then obviously there will always be reason why people do need to relinquish their animals, and that's, you know, that's the right decision for a lot of people, and so we will then care for them. But we are seeing increasingly challenging animals, so either where, you know, maybe medical conditions have been left for longer, and so there's more to treat. We are seeing the tail end of the COVID challenge, where animals that couldn't be socialized during COVID are now adolescent or adult dogs with behavior problems. So, you know, sometimes they do come in, but also people's life situations change.
Yeah.
You know, they do. And so we will always be there to support people in those situations.
Paul earlier from the NFRSA was saying about he's seeing a lot of overweight dogs.
Yeah.
Are you seeing that too?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we absolutely do. I mean, we see all sorts. I mean, you name it, we see it, you know, and some of it's horrendous.
Yeah.
But then, you know, as I mentioned to you earlier, we had 100 kittens born on site last year. You know, so you get kittens to play with, which is an absolute...
That's your lunch break,
That is my lunch break. Yeah, we have lunchtime socializing, which is literally living the dream.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes there's a puppy in the office, sometimes there are kittens at lunchtime, you know, so it makes up for some of the harder stuff. But yeah, that's why this campaign is so important, because actually we're seeing that social media is really defining people's expectations around animals now. And in fact, younger people are seeing animals more online than they are in real life. So it sets what they expect in terms of how they should look, how they should behave, and how they should be treated, hence backpacks and things. So we're trying to tackle that.
Right.
So by kind of laying bare the challenges, particularly around extreme characteristics that are seen as cute.
Yeah.
Because there are so many cute dogs and cats out there, you know, mixed breeds, other breeds, rescues. Yeah, there are plenty of others to choose from.
Has all the response to this been positive?
No.
Okay.
No, it hasn't. And that's exactly what we were expecting.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, and we did quite a lot of testing going into it, actually, to see how it would land.
Right.
And we knew that there are some people who are really, really fixed on breeds should look a certain way, and we're not going to change it. And also, or not seeing its relevance to them and actually thinking, well, my dog's healthy.
Right.
Your dog, well, that's brilliant. That dog might be healthy, but there's an awful lot that aren't.
Mm-hmm.
So we have had a bit of a backlash of people, you know, saying that we're pug haters, which we're not. Saying that it was a hate campaign, which, you know, we're absolutely not wanting to criticize people. We want to help people make a more informed decision in the future, or at least just know going into buying an animal that they go into it with their eyes open and they know what they can expect.
What do you think other messages you need to get across to those people? Is it generally financial, or is it time or stress, or what the consequences of having these animals is?
I mean, it's different things for different people. You know, obviously these animals struggle to live a natural, healthy life. So, you know, a pug cannot do, or a flat-faced dog cannot do what people might expect of a dog. With Scottish fold cats, they're often chosen for being docile and quite friendly. But actually what we believe is that that's masking underlying pain, because they have reduced mobility because of this cartilage condition. So they don't do very much.
Right.
And so they are more docile, but cats are very, very good at hiding pain.
Right.
So we want people to know, you know, what the likely outcome is for those animals, what life will look like for them, what the likely costs might be. Also what the length of life might be, because
Reduced.
Really reduced, particularly with French bulldogs.
What's the average age of a French bulldog?
Again, this may not be absolutely evidence-based, but I believe that it is been reduced now to about 4.5 years.
That's a shocker.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that.
Yeah, some of it is really, really extreme.
Okay. What other campaigns have you got coming up? What are you working on?
Well, so this is going to be a big long-term focus for us. We're looking at it through lots of different lenses. So we're looking at how we can shift kind of what's seen as normal. So that means working with like media, advertisers, brands on the animals that they feature and represent, because what people see out there in the media is kind of becomes normal and therefore acceptable. So looking at kind of getting upstream and making sure that they're making good healthy welfare kind of based decisions. We're expecting a consultation on breeding regulation for dogs.
Right.
So we will be working through our policy and public affairs team.
When would that come to fruition? When would that come out?
Well, we've been expecting it for a while because it's
Right.
part of the government's animal welfare strategy, but we believe that that's quite imminent. Obviously, there's quite a lot going on governmentally at the moment, so there are a few other distractions, but we will keep them on it.
Yeah.
It doesn't cover cats, unfortunately. So we will be kind of working.
Do you think that will come?
I hope so. I mean, cats have been behind the curve. So the reason that it's not in there is because there's not evidence for there being a problem yet. There will be a problem.
Right.
We can see it coming down the track. And actually the popularity of pedigree cats is really on the rise. But yeah, so hopefully working kind of at a systemic level to change regulation, looking at kind of normalization, then also carrying on with this campaign and extending it out. Because people know it for dogs, they don't know it so much for cats, but also they don't know the range of characteristics that have these negative impacts. So we'll be looking at that as well. But we worked quite a lot on the imports bill that was passed last year. So looking at making sure that all the necessary legislation is in place around that. That affects the importation of puppies and kittens. Right. Or heavily pregnant animals. Also stops animals being brought into the country with cropped ears. And in fact,
what happens then if they're not brought in? What happens to those animals?
Well, I mean, again, it's a supply and demand thing, because at the moment there's a loophole that people who want an animal, a dog with cropped ears, it gets done in this country, and then a foreign chip is put in.
Right.
So it's passed off as coming in. If it's illegal, that can't happen. We also have been working to reduce the popularity of cropped ears, so that that demand just goes away. And if there isn't a demand for it, it doesn't happen so much. Unfortunately, it's very popular in America. So there is a challenge there. This loophole is so critical, but there is necessary nuance in the legislation that we will work with government around, so that to improve the impact of animals who have already had their ears cropped. It's not their fault that it's happened. And then we've also been doing quite a lot of work around the Renters' Rights Act, so that people who rent their homes, which is an awful lot of people, will have the right to keep a dog or cat.
Very important.
Because it's really important. It's one of the top reasons that we see animals being brought into Battersea when people's living circumstances change, and then they can't find a home that will accommodate them and their beloved pet. And that's heartbreaking. So, we will carry on working on that until animals are welcome everywhere.
What can the general public do to support Battersea?
I mean, so many different ways. I mean, specifically with Cost of Cute, obviously there's our website, which is battersea.org.uk/cost of cute. It's in the leaflet. But so find out about, the impact of extreme characteristics, but also maybe just don't like and share it on social media, because again, that kind of, or animals with extreme characteristics, not the campaign, obviously do share that. But so that it's not just it's not normalized. And then be really sort of mindful about the choices that you make when you next take on an animal. Obviously come to Battersea, we've got amazing animals.
Do they have to be within a certain demographic to come to Battersea in London?
No, I mean, I don't think we restrict in terms of area at all. We do match our animals to the needs that they have, and therefore the people who can meet those needs. So we can be quite restrictive in some cases, because, for example, we have a lot of big dogs. We see an awful lot of huskies.
Right.
We wouldn't necessarily rehome a husky to a flat.
No,
because that's not going to be
conducive
happy
to
for
a happy
anybody.
life, is it?
It's not. It's not. But for example, we see a lot of greyhounds, a lot of ex-racers, and people think that they are quite big dogs. People do think that they need an awful lot of exercise. Actually, they need to burn off quite a lot of steam, and then they're happy to sleep and have a cuddle for
I hear
the rest
that
of the
they
time.
like a good sleep.
They do. They really like a good sleep. So they can make brilliant pets.
Yeah.
So we do quite a lot of careful matching. Obviously, we've got lots of cats as well. So
you should take some more on, shouldn't you?
Well, again, our first cat is not the greatest fan of other cats. So, these three have been navigating their relationship for a while now.
And that was a conversation we were having, because people's perception is cats should be with other cats, but they're solitary animals, aren't they?
They're solitary predators in the wild. They have all stemmed from kind of African wild cats. So, no, they prefer to be solitary.
Company.
Yeah, and they are very territorial. So quite often, they also, I mean, and this is a personal opinion, but because sometimes we would rehome to an indoor situation for example, for an elderly cat, or one that's always lived indoors. But normally cats like to roam. So it's all about, and that's, I guess, what I love about Battersea is it's the animals first. So we will meet their needs in whatever way we can.
Thank you so much for your time today, and it's a really important topic, and I've seen it on the tube. Where else is it being advertised out and about?
Well, so at the moment, I mean, some of it's still on the tube because they've forgotten to take it down, which is excellent. We're actually working with some content creators soon, so that we can really reach younger people in their social feeds who wouldn't necessarily have heard of Battersea before. So that's coming out soon. We've got some big PR activity happening in August as well. And then there'll be lots more to come next year.
Big round of applause. Thank you so much.
Thank you.